so I want to show you how we can get started. First, let me go here with, oops, let me go back, with calculating the cost. So there's a formula or a number called the EFC, the expected family contribution. And what it is, it's what the federal government says that a family can expect to contribute or expect to pay. Now, let me explain what goes into this, and we'll talk a little bit about how it's calculated, and then I'll just show a few examples. But I like to let families know that this is what the federal government says you may be expected to pay, whether or not you can pay it. And so it's really important, okay? So the EFC is calculated on a form that you'll complete annually starting in your senior year of high school called the FAFSA. So pretty much everyone's heard of the FAFSA, the free application, the free application for federal student aid, I'm sorry. And on that form, it takes about an hour to complete. And I always recommend parents to complete it because I find that parents have a little bit more experience and knowledge and understanding the 1040 forms and their bank statements and value of their assets, and not over writing too much down, like putting down an asset that really should not be contributed on the FAFSA, because you don't want to provide the wrong information and get a miscalculation. So this is the number that is generated at the end when you complete your FAFSA, that colleges say that families can expect to pay. Now, again, that's whether you can pay it or not. And it takes a look at your parents' prior year income. So I asked at the beginning, tell me what year you're in. So if you're in the class of 2022, the FAFSA will look at the tax information from the class of, let me see, you graduate in 2022. So it's going to look at it from the class of 2020, or I'm sorry, from your parents' 2020 tax returns. So their 2020 tax returns will get completed, the beginning of 2021. And then in October, it gets a little weird because it's a lot of dates, but in October, so next year, this time for high school juniors, for those of you in the 2022 range, your parents will complete the FAFSA using your information from 2020, from this calendar year we're in, but this will be your prior year income. Hopefully that makes sense. Basically, it looks back 2 years, but it's basically 2 years prior in order to get an estimate of the income. It will also look back at the student's prior income year. So if you're in the class of 2022, the money that you earn, if you're working and you file taxes, it's going to look back at that income, and that's going to be assessed on the FAFSA. It's going to take a look at the parents' assets, any student assets, the number of people in your household, the number of students in college, and the age of the oldest parent. Now it asks for a few other questions, but this is pretty much the gist of what it asks in terms of money and how it's calculated. Let me just kind of give you a crude example. So in order to get to this number that's called the EFC, or the expected family contribution, and kind of expect the money that this is what you expect to pay, it does what it's called the eligibility formula. So it will take a look at the cost of attendance. So again, that's the cost for your school, the total cost. So let's say, I have an example in just a moment. So in order, once we get our expected family contribution, and this is why this is really important, you have your cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution. The difference is what is your financial need. So let me go back. So earlier I asked, will I need to pay for the entire cost of attendance? Well, hopefully not, because when you understand what your expected family contribution is, and then you take a look at the cost of attendance, your EFC doesn't change for that year. That stays the same. But the cost of attendance could change. I mean, the cost, one school may be $30,000, another school may be $50,000. So that can change. But your EFC will remain, that will be the same for the particular year. The difference is what's called financial need. And that's what we're going to talk about today when we talk about funding kind of the gap or um, covering that difference. So let me just give you an example with some numbers. So let's say you apply to ABC University and the cost of attendance is $30,000. Excuse me. And your family's expected contribution is $10,000. So that number is what the federal government says you can pay based on all that information your family provides. So let me go back. Based on their prior year income, and that comes right off of their tax return. If you file the tax return, it'll come off of your family assets. So 529 is taking a look at certain assets, not your home. They don't expect you to sell your home to pay for college, and they don't expect parents to touch their retirement. So it does not include 401ks, 501ks, 403bs. It does not include that, which is really important. But let me go right there. But all of that number is in there, and then the need. So here in this example, we see that the difference is $20,000, and it's really important that two things I want you to really take away from this. Number one, I want you, and I have a link in the resources to calculate and do an estimate on your your EFC using what's called the FAFSA forecaster. And that's a great way now to get an estimate as to what your EFC may be. So if you kind of have an idea of what your 2020, if you're, let's say you're a junior and you know what, kind of what your income may look like for this year for 2020, go ahead and plug that number in as well as some of the other numbers in the FAFSA forecaster so that you can get an idea of what your EFC may be. Now, of course, you won't know your exact EFC until you complete the FAFSA in the senior year. One common question that families ask is, when do I complete it? So you can complete it anytime after October 1 of your senior year, and it will get completed every year until your student graduates. So anytime after October 1, and the sooner the better. And by sooner the better, I mean, you can do October, November, maybe December. Don't wait too much longer, but you want to get that form in to your school.